Welcome to our webinar. Thank you for joining. As you probably know, since you're here, we will be focusing on AI dynamic pricing and how we can transfer retail strategy. My name is Ondřej Valášek. I am dynamic pricing product owner from DataSentics. Together with me is Lukáš Poček here.
Hello everyone, so my name is Lukáš. I'm a data scientist and I work on projects around dynamic pricing for about 3 years now.
Great, thanks, Lukáš. And we are also co-hosting the webinar with Databricks. And with us here, we have Bryan Smith from Databricks, who is head of industry solutions. Bryan couldn't make it to the webinar in the real time, so he was kind enough to pre-record his part. So we will be playing that as part of the webinar. So let's probably jump into it. I'll start with some overview of the agenda. So we will start with Bryan's part. We will be talking about dynamic pricing and the Databricks platform, where then we will be focusing on dynamic pricing introduction. We will speak about common challenges and misconceptions they come with it, where dynamic pricing is applicable, and then we will be focusing and spending most time on our case study from Dr.Max, where we built dynamic pricing solutions. And last but not least, we will also spend some time on DataSentics approach of dynamic pricing. Speaking of DataSentics, for those who don't know us, we are a company of approximately 250 AI experts focusing on machine learning, data, or in general AI use cases. And also aside of that, we are often building data platforms, specifically on Databricks, on which we then are able to build these AI use cases, which I just mentioned. And below you can see what are the usual companies or clients we work for. But we are not here to speak about DataSentics. We are here to speak about dynamic pricing. So let's go to that part, and I'm handing over to Bryan.
I have to admit that when the folks at DataSentics asked me to speak about dynamic pricing, I was a little hesitant. When we hear the term dynamic pricing, we think about that expensive ticket we got for the sporting event and we found ourselves really far away from the court, or that holiday plane ticket that cost us so much more than what we expected, we almost had to cancel the trip, or that ride from the airport that usually costs some amount, but all of a sudden is 3 times more expensive because there's a shortage of drivers. When retail organizations talk about dynamic pricing, consumers often think about these kind of sticker shock moments and kind of recoil from the concept. But the reality is dynamic pricing is all around us and is often presented in ways that we actually embrace and enjoy. And so let's reframe the conversation around dynamic pricing by looking at ways that we frequently experience in our everyday lives. So when a department store or a clothier runs a sale, they're attempting to reduce their inventory, maybe making way for next season's arrival or clear a bunch of inventory they've accumulated for the holiday season. That discount that they're offering us, that's dynamic pricing. When our favorite bar or restaurant, they offer us a discount on special items and drinks at a period that would otherwise be kind of slow, we're experiencing dynamic pricing. And who doesn't like a happy hour, right? And so when our local grocer also assures us that they are working to meet or beat their competition's prices, so we can always get a fair price when we fill up our carts with them, we are again experiencing dynamic pricing in action. So for retailers, dynamic pricing doesn't often look like these minute-by-minute changes in item level prices or these huge, massive spikes in pricing that we might see in other places. But instead, it represents a set of coordinated activities intended to establish a baseline price and then employ some discounts or other incentives to help them drive their desired sales goals. When presented clearly and transparently, and as something that has the potential to benefit me as a consumer, I tend to like these things. And The results that we're seeing in a lot of organizations hold this up, that this can be a very positive thing. For organizations that have implemented dynamic pricing, they see higher profits, they move higher volumes, and they attract new and returning customers back to their stores again and again, helping them create solid, healthy businesses over the long term. And in today's uncertain economic climate, where retailers are dealing with fluctuating costs of the goods that they're selling, rising labor prices, and increased competition from every digital corner imaginable, a careful, measured strategy for pricing is exactly what a lot of organizations need. Which is why, in a recent survey, a large number of retail organizations, many of whom already adopt some kind of dynamic pricing strategy, are investing still more to make their capabilities far more sophisticated and automated inside their organization. They're looking to use AI to up-level their dynamic pricing to make it more effective in the long run for their business. Now, this is a good time to introduce a simple maturity model to help us clarify what we mean by kind of up-leveling our pricing strategy. For a long time, many organizations work without a clear pricing strategy. They maybe set their price based on some percentage over cost, or they use a manufacturer's suggested retail price to set the pricing inside their stores. Many organizations then move to a rules-based approach where pricing is adjusted based on simple factors like local competition, which now requires to start collecting a little bit more information, but otherwise it's a fairly simple approach. The next level up, organizations start thinking about using analytics, taking in data from multiple factors and calculating things like price elasticities or total margins that they're attempting to obtain. And it's at this point we start to see specialists get involved in performing some more sophisticated analytics work, but ultimately this is still a very human-driven operation where the results that the analysts accumulate are put forward to decision makers who then determine which pricing changes to make and when to roll them out. That next level of maturity that we're seeing a lot of organizations move into involves taking in still more data, using still more sophisticated models, but, and this is the really important part, moving to a more automated basis for making pricing changes inside the business. We're now talking about building pricing engines that are woven directly into our business operations. So as conditions on the ground change, we can dynamically adjust our pricing and our promotion and our discounting strategy to help us achieve our goals. This is what we refer to as being AI powered in our strategy. Now, when you look at this, in each of these stair steps in this model, there's this progression in terms of the maturity around our teams, our process, and our technology. And in this last stage, this AI powered stage, technology becomes absolutely critical in helping not only automate the work the analysts are doing, but actually managing the business operations around the setting of prices and the managing of promotional activity. At Databricks, we of course see our platform as an excellent choice in creating a foundation for this work, which is why partners such as DataSentics have chosen to build their AI-powered pricing solution on our platform. If you're not familiar with Databricks, please allow me to provide a brief introduction within the context of what is needed to build an AI-powered dynamic pricing solution. You first and foremost need access to data and lots of it. With data federation capabilities and zero-copy integrations into many of the core platforms used to run modern businesses, Databricks provides you a unified view into your organization's data with consistent access to data governance and security features that help us ensure the right data is used by the right people for the right things. This data is made available for access, analytics, and inference in a variety of modes, from the daily and hourly batches that define a lot of our BI workloads to the sub-second real-time processing required to infuse predictive and prescriptive analytics into operational workflows. Built for the cloud, Databricks allows you to scale up and down based on the actual demands of your enterprise, allowing you to align costs and speed with your actual business needs. And from this platform, Databricks enables the full range of data consumers, from the business analysts to data scientists, data engineers, and application developers, and even the business decision maker who simply needs to ask a question about the state of the business, leverage AI to query the underlying system, and return a result along with some interpretive guidance to help them make decisions around what they're seeing. Databricks is an amazing platform for a wide range of business needs, but given the unique challenges of building an AI-driven dynamic pricing system, you'd be hard-pressed to find a platform more capable for serving the needs of the enterprise. And with that, I'll turn it back to the folks at DataSentics to go deeper into the amazing AI-powered pricing solution that they've built on the Databricks platform. Thank you.
So to follow on basically what we've heard from Bryan, so we already know that dynamic pricing is a data-driven method to set up prices that fluctuate or change over time instead of static prices which don't change. And for this method, for dynamic pricing, we of course need various factors and various data. So if I'm speaking about data, what do we usually use when implementing dynamic pricing? So we usually look at sales history. We look at product specification. We look at competitor data, competitor prices, and we also look at some external factors, signals such as seasonality, weather. It can be basically anything which can influence the price making process. So when we have these data we need, we can leverage some sort of ML model. This is what we do in DataSentics, although not necessarily ML model has to be the one or the method used for dynamic pricing. It can be some other statistical model, for example. And once we have the model ready, which is basically determining the prices, we are able to create some sort of automation. So the price analysts don't have to create the prices themselves, but the generated prices by the ML model are basically sent to any given system in need, which is responsible for either uploading the prices to some e-commerce platform, or maybe to electronic price tags, which are used in traditional retail. And what is dynamic pricing good for? Well, as you already know, probably it helps us to boost revenue or margin. Depends what kind of optimization you want to focus on. It helps us to respond more quickly to what's happening on markets. So if our competitor increases the prices or decreases, we want to react to that, right? And it for sure helps us to lower the manual effort, as I mentioned in the automation part. And it can also help us to support some strategic goals. So in case you have a stock full of products which you want to sell, then you can consider this strategy, and the dynamic pricing solution will reflect that in the prices which will be used for the product. All right, so that's the introduction from my end. Lukáši.
Okay, thank you, Andras. So I will continue with common challenges and misconceptions that we typically face when implementing the dynamic pricing solution. So the first section here are the data challenges. So it might easily happen that we might not have enough historical data, or it can also happen that we might have enough historical data, but there is very low price variability in that historical data. And what you can imagine under that is that, for example, if a product was historically priced only at one price, so for example, only at 100 Czech crowns, it will be quite hard to answer the question how much we will sell for 80 Czech crowns or for 120 Czech crowns. And this can actually even lead to the fact that the model might not recognize price as an important factor in the first place, and we may even encounter this non-monotonicity issue. So that's basically a situation where the model will think that if you increase the prices, we will also sell more, which is typically not what we would like the model to think. And the second data challenge here is that different products have different product importance. So it's often the case that a small percentage of the products drive the majority of the revenue. And that's important thing to keep in mind during the development, because you would probably want to treat these products a little bit differently. The second section here are the business challenges. So firstly, it is very important to actually correctly set the metric of interest, so it is aligned with whatever the business goal is. right? It can be maximizing revenue, or it can be maybe maximizing profit, or maybe some combination of both. That does not really matter, but it's very important to set this metric correctly so that the model has something to optimize for. Because, for example, if we will tell the model to optimize everything on revenue, we can hardly blame it for not providing us enough profit, because that was not in the model's objective in the first place. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And the second challenge here is to actually persuade the pricing team, right? So that can be actually something that's completely new for the pricing people. They are maybe not used to that. They have been doing that differently their entire lives. It's perfectly understandable that, especially from the beginning, they might not have the full trust into the solution. And the third thing that we unfortunately sometimes have to face is that some people might think that dynamic pricing is some fraudulent approach, which would basically increase the prices during some pandemics, etc., and thus kind of making use of people in need. That's not true. That's not really how the solution works. The solution actually aims for fair prices, which actually should improve the customer satisfaction and customer retention. And also, speaking from experience, I can say that generally these machine learning based solutions tends to be rather cheaper than the rule based solutions, because the rule based solution is very often just a follower of the competitive prices, and if the competition increase their prices, it will increase the prices as well, which is not necessarily what a machine learning based solution would do in that type of situation. So yeah, that was about the common challenges and misconceptions, and I will pass the word again to Andra.
Great, thanks. Right. So where does actually dynamic pricing make sense? Where it thrives, right? So we can definitely, from our own experience, say that it is retail and e-commerce, especially those kind of products which are sensitive to market changes, to competitors, or those kinds of products which are just sold in large volume. So, for example, it can be some cosmetics products. It can be even groceries. You can imagine, right? Travel and hospitality are definitely an industry where dynamic pricing is applicable. So, if you are selling concert tickets, then you are also probably reflecting where you are, how many tickets you already sold, etc. Insurance also a place where we've seen dynamic pricing being implemented. Ride sharing, you've probably an experience before that you wanted to order a ride, and it was maybe in the middle of the night. You had a lot of people around, and the price suddenly increased. Well, that's because of dynamic pricing, of course. And then energy and utilities with flexible energy, flexible pricing. That is also where dynamic pricing is applicable. But where it is really not that useful, it would be, for example, automotive. So because cars, in general, in comparison to the retail and e-commerce I mentioned, they are not sold in such large volumes. Of course, they are, but it's a very expensive product. It's just dynamic pricing does not really fit that. Or real estate, similarly with houses, right? Or luxury goods, something which basically we are where the purchase is driven by some emotion. Um, the dynamic pricing is not the best solution, or some highly regulated goods. We will be speaking about Dr.Max and their dynamic pricing. And of course, their dynamic pricing does not is not implemented on the prescription drugs, for example, because this is highly regulated industry. And below you can see some market leaders which are using dynamic pricing, and I think that just falls into those buckets I mentioned. All right. So I already mentioned Dr.Max. So in case you haven't heard of Dr.Max, in case you're not from Central or Central Eastern Europe. So Dr.Max is one of the largest pharmacy chain in Europe, operating in many countries. I think it's 6 currently. And we came to Dr.Max about 2.5 years ago, where the goal was to replace their current dynamic pricing solution, which was not really, let's say, considering the key factors which we were mentioning at the beginning of the presentation, such as competitor prices, or it was not really reacting to the market changes, etc. So we developed a solution based on Azure Databricks platform, which is reflecting those important data about competitors, about the market dynamics, about the product sales history, etc. And we started with first POC country back in 2024, where we were quite successful. When we rolled out the solution, we were able to increase the revenue by 36%. And because of that, we, together with Dr.Max, decided to fully roll out the dynamic pricing to another 4 countries. And now, looking back to those implementations, we can see that in the long term, we've increased our revenue by approximately 12% in those countries. So it's a quite success story for us and also Dr.Max. And going further, we will explain how it actually works, Lukáši.
Okay, thank you, Andra. Yeah, so here I would like to walk you a bit through the process of basically selecting the optimum price for the next day. So let's do it a little bit practically here. So imagine that you have this product, and we want to choose the optimal price for next day, so tomorrow. So the tomorrow, in this case, is 10th of October, which was Friday. And that's some kind of a calendar feature that we would like to consider for that. Second thing is that on this product, our market share was estimated to be around 58%. And we would also like to consider some data about the customer behavior on the website. So this product was 20% of the time a basket opener, meaning that it's the first product in the customer's basket. And about 30% of the time, the customers comes to see this product from outside of the Dr.Max domain. So that means that they are not yet on the Dr.Max domain, but they, for example, search this product on Google, and then they will click through the Dr.Max domain. And why this is important is because if the customer comes from Google, for example, if you will go and search this product, you will very likely also see the offers from all the other competitors that offer this product and the respective prices. So at this moment, we are like in this kind of, I would say, price race with all the other competitors. And that leads me to another thing that we obviously need to consider, and those are the prices in the competition. So the cheapest competitor in this case offered that product for 95 Czech crowns, and the second cheapest for 108 Czech crowns. And last but not least, another thing that we need to consider is kind of the goal the pricing analyst will tell us. So in this case, the pricing analyst told us that he would like to have at least 5% of the margin on that product, and he doesn't want to be more expensive than the third cheapest competitor who offered that product for 139 Czech crowns in this case. Okay, so this is our problem introduction, I would say. We can move to the next slide. And here we have a very simplified cookbook, I would say, of actually how to tackle this challenge. So the step one is to download the most up-to-date market data. So that's what we have already seen on the previous slide. So that can be the prices of the competitors, the customer behavior on the website, etc. So that one we have already done. The second step is that we need to consider the business rules basically set by the pricing analyst, right? So he told us that he would like to have at least 5% margin, and he doesn't want to be more expensive than 139 Czech crowns. So based on that, we can basically determine a set of eligible prices that satisfy these rules. So once we have step 2, we can proceed to the step 3, and that's the part where we will basically let the machine learning model to predict how many pieces of that product we will sell at each of the price points. So that will give us this blue curve on that graph. And once we have that, we can move to the step 4, which is post-processing these predictions. So why are we doing that? The post-processing, we do that to basically satisfy some basic economic intuition, such as that if we will increase the price, we would probably like the solution to predict that we will sell less volume. Right? And this is especially helpful as we go away from the prices that have been historically observed on that product. So, for example, this product, it was never been priced more than 140 Czech crowns. And if you will look at this range on the right of the graph, for example, on this 140 to 160 Czech crown, you will see that the raw predictions from the machine learning model are quite flat there. And that's a little bit a sign that that the model does not really know what to do here, because, well, it has never seen that in the training data, so it may act a little bit more confused here. So that's where the post-processing is actually very helpful, because then we will ensure that with increasing price, we will always decrease the predicted volume, and that's very important for the future optimization. Okay. So, and once we have these post-process predictions for every price point, it's relatively easy to calculate the expected revenue and expected profit for each of these price points. So here we can see this this blue curve, that's the expected revenue, and the red curve, that's expected profit. And if you will focus on the left side of the graph, you will see that those price points, they have this red border around their yellow box. And that's because they are actually not eligible for us in this scenario. Because if you remember, the pricing analyst told us that he would like to have at least 5% of the margin. And these price points do not satisfy that rule. So we cannot really choose from them in this case. And what we are choosing from is those prices then on the right. So starting from 115 Czech crowns up to 139 Czech crowns. And from these prices now, we need to select this optimal one. So that's quite based on the business goal here, actually. So that's what matters here, because the business maybe they want to optimize the revenue on this product. So in that case, we would select this lowest price here, this 115 Czech crowns, because that's where the revenue is maximized within those eligible price points. On the other hand, if you would like to maximize the profit, you would select the most expensive price point here, because this 139, because that's where you maximize profit. Or of course, you can set up the metric of interest a little bit more customized, maybe do some combination of these two, and basically end up with whatever is in between. Okay, and that leads me to the last step, step 7. It's the last, but perhaps the most important step here, and that's that we monitor the performance. And by doing that, we can then identify the strengths and weaknesses of the whole solution, and then make further improvements of that. So that's something that I would really recommend, because it worked really well for us on the Dr.Max project. Okay. So moving to the next slide, we have here also some lessons learned that we would like to highlight. So the first one is that it's important to always understand your data in the detail. So that will probably not surprise anyone, but it may be a little bit more trickier than it sounds, right? For example, you can think, what is the date column in your transaction table? What does it mean? Is it the order creation date, or is it maybe the invoice date, etc.? And those are actually the details that really matter during the development phase. So yeah, if I can recommend, always try to understand your data in the detail as much as possible. The second thing here is to keep the business close. So We prefer to focus on the problem from the business perspective, then maintain also transparent communication between the developers and the business to always make sure that both sides understand each other and that this whole solution is aligned with whatever the business goal is. The third point here is to monitor the data, right? So the solution can operate almost in real time. So any missing or problematic data can cause immediate negative impact on that. So you want to make sure that if anything goes wrong, if any problematic or missing data occurs, you will know about it as soon as possible. And the last thing here is to leverage the domain knowledge. So that's also another very important point, also from the development perspective. So you want to consider the market specifics, right? So for example, if you compare the Italian and the Czech market, there might be completely different brand awareness, or the dynamics in general can be very different there. So that's something that you want to keep in mind already during the development phase, and maybe use the know-how of the business people that you are working with. Okay, so that's about the lessons learned, and we can move to the DataSentics and high-level architecture approach. So let me just very briefly go through that. For the biggest simplification, you can basically think about that as this box that takes a bunch of data sources as an input and then generates the suggested optimal prices for defined period of time, because it doesn't have to be always 1 day. It can be also, for example, 1 week or 1 month. So for this defined period of time and for each product that that we want to price here. But what's happening under the hood is that we take these data sources, we pre-process them, and we pre-process them into features. We do that so that the model can understand it. That's basically the model's language to understand the data as much as possible. So once we have these features, we will start the model training, and every model that we train, we will also thoroughly evaluate. And all the information about the model performances you will then store in this experiment tracking box. So once we have that, we can then choose the best model here, whatever it may mean, right? Maybe you want to choose the best model in terms of the accuracy, or maybe you just want to choose the best model, the newest model that's in the newest data here. So that's also, I think, to be discussed. But once you have this best model, you can then proceed to this phase that we have already seen on this product example, and that's kind of like this prediction and suggesting the optimal prices phase. So at that moment, we take the business constraint as an input. So in our example, it was this 5% of the margin, and the pricing analyst doesn't want to be more expensive than the third cheapest competitor here. Based on that, we will determine a set of eligible prices. And on these, we will then run this prediction pipeline. So we will do the machine learning predictions, then we will do the post-processing, and we can then move to this price optimization, this game box here. And this is the point where we again need this input from the business, and that's actually the main goal here, what they would like to maximize again, revenue, profit, or maybe combination of both, or basically whatever else. And once we have that, we will then we can then select for each product the prices that's the most aligned with these business goals, and we will return that to the user as a set of optimal prices. So yeah, that was very briefly what's happening under the hood. Was just to give you a better idea of this whole solution. So I hope that it was helpful, and we move to Ondra.
Okay. Right. Let's have a look how actually this can look like in a project implementation or in project phases. How we usually deliver such architecture of or working dynamic pricing solution. So we usually start with something we call initial discovery. This is where we sit together with the pricing specialists from the clients. We sit together with the technical teams, and we really try to understand how the pricing process looks like today. With the technical team, we are discussing the data capabilities, what kind of data we can work with, what is the infrastructure, whether the client uses cloud or on-prem, is cloud, which one, etc. So we really try to understand both the business and the technical part of the client side. Once we have that, we can move to the project phase. Let's say the second one called A/B testing. So we develop a fully functional solution integrated into the client's business processes, but we usually let's say limit the scope of the products for the pricing to some limited scope, not to every products the client is selling. And that is because we want to basically A/B test or compare how our solution compares with the legacy solution, with the processes the client used up until now when they were creating prices. So once we have the solution ready, we start the A/B testing part, and after let's say a month of A/B testing, or it can be longer, we can compare the test group, which are the prices which we created, and the control group, which is the prices which were created by the legacy process. And then, in case our solution works better, such was the case of Dr.Max, if you remember, the 36% of increase in revenues. We discuss how we can fully roll out the solution to other markets or all the products depending on the client. So that's the third part, where we make sure we integrate the solution, dynamic pricing solution, to all of the systems needed, so it can be fully optimized. I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation that you can integrate the dynamic pricing solution to various e-commerce platforms, to basically automate the price creation process from the very beginning to the end. And then it just comes to the monitoring, and that's basically it. That's how the uh, project structure usually looks like. I know we don't have it on the slide, but I can also tell you how long this usually takes. So I would say the initial discovery part takes approximately 1 month to see to really understand the client's needs and the data and the pricing process. The A/B testing part, that can be anything from 3 to 5 months, depending on the complexity, and then the full rollout, again depending on the complexity, but it can be again something between 3 to 5 months. So within a year, you can have a fully functioning dynamic pricing solution for all the products. And I think we are at the end of our presentation. Thank you very much for listening. I'll have a look at the questions part. So I see the first question, which I already replied to, and that was, how do you extract competitor data? So you can either purchase the competitor data from some third parties. There is many of these third parties which basically scrape the prices from the e-shops, for example, and you can purchase the data, or you can of course create your own scraping solution. But I would probably stick to the third parties which do it for their business. And then another question in the chat I see is, how does your solution differ from other alternatives on the market? Okay, that's a good question. So we don't have, let's say, a product which we can deploy tomorrow. So we have something which we call a turnkey solution, which is basically based on a accelerator. So we have the technical solution ready. It's built on Databricks. We can just simply ingest any client's data, and based on client's need, we can export the data in various needed forms. We can integrate to any basically other systems, which I was also mentioning already. So it's a really custom-made solution based on this accelerator, which speeds up the whole process. We are not creating it from scratch, but we have already some um, uh, some technical aspects ready. And then we have another question here from Roman. Could you share more details behind A/B test? How do you create fair splits? Do you resample the groups after some times? That's a great question. Yes, we do. And maybe Lukasz, you can elaborate on this better.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I see where are you aiming with that. So yeah, we try to do it as random as possible, so that basically both the groups are as much similar as they can. And very often that's with the collaboration also with the pricing analyst here. And we also try to basically have both of these groups, so the scope and control group, enough big, so you can think of more like, maybe a few thousands of products in each group. We will then follow them. And what we also try to do, that even though we hope to have basically both of these groups quite similar, we will after certain time switch them. So one product can, let's say, first month or first 2 weeks can be in the control group. After that, it can be switched to the scope group, etc. Yeah. So that's kind of a way how we are trying to ensure this fairness, and then that the model performance is measurable.
Okay. I see no other questions in the chat. Anyways, thank you very much for those 3 questions. In case you would want to ask or have more details on dynamic pricing and DataSentics, please reach out to us. We will be really happy. You can reach out to either Lukasz here on the call or Petr Dvořák, who is our head of retail in DataSentics. And thank you very much for joining today's webinar. I hope you learned something, and we will see you on some other session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Bye bye.